And she's done some outstanding work throughout Africa, not just in Tanzania, very various other countries. And we're thankful for the work she's done. And it's just amazing that she's got so much done in such a young age, in such a with such limited resources. But somehow God is blessed. So it has worked out very well for her and for the young ones who are getting blessed by her activities. Um, I think years to come, it's going to make a difference in thousands and thousands of lives because when you help one person, it's a mushroom actually. And so it's going to explode. And so I'm very proud to know her as a family member through marriage and so forth, and just as a friend. And I'll turn everything over to you, Dr. Brianna Green.
Okay, thank you so much. It's great to be here again, and I'm happy to see everyone again. I think has everyone here been on the last time as well? That will just kind of help me not repeat too much.
No, Brianna, you should probably repeat because we've got some new people and
Okay.
not everyone is on, and
They're
we've
going
had some
to be here.
turnaround with folks. So I think you should just give the history. You can
Sure.
go review and then update.
Okay, absolutely. So then I'll just go to the PowerPoint and we can kind of start from the beginning. So let me make this larger. Let's see. Okay, so like I said, I'm a pediatric resident now. I started out my journey at Loma Linda always wanting to be a mission doctor, and now I finally achieved at least the doctor part of those goals. And so here you can see this is from last June. This was in Uganda. So this was literally 2 weeks after I graduated medical school. I got to go with Loma Linda University and actually act in the role of a physician working in their little hospital that we kind of set up outside of the hospital itself. So we set up some tents and we were able to see about 5,000 people within, I think, 3 days. So it was quite an exciting venture. And if you remember this little girl who's in the yellow and green dress, to the left of the screen, I'll talk about her a little bit more later. But this was just a really exciting moment and hopefully gives you a glimpse into like who I am and what I love to do. And for me, that's interacting with children and making their lives better. And so what kind of drives me? There's two things. One is definitely this verse, and it's Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and whom will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am, send me." I think the biggest success in my life is just saying yes to God when He has placed a call on me. And I think that He's just been guiding all the way through, even when things seem crazy or like I don't know what I'm doing or maybe a bit too adventurous. He's always there as my adventure buddy and has really brought me to so many places that I had always hoped I would go, but wasn't sure I would. And so this all started in an area of Tanzania called Usa River. It's actually located within Arusha, which is the red portion on the screen that you can see. When I graduated from high school, I always knew that this is actually when I graduated from college, but since I was young, even before high school, I always knew that I wanted to do work abroad. I wanted to help kids in need, bring resources, all of those sorts of things. And so when I graduated from college, I actually took a gap year before going to medical school. And I ended up flying to Tanzania without an organization, just completely by myself, independently. And the doors just really opened. Initially, even at the start of the story, you can see how God was leading because I Googled orphanages around the world. I really wanted to go somewhere for an extended amount of time and get to know the inner workings of how they work, how maybe I could have my own facility one day and just really get to know the people, not just as a foreign volunteer, but as a friend. And so initially, I had Googled orphanages around the world. One came up in Tanzania. Tanzania had never even been on my radar. and I contacted them. They were an Adventist organization, and turns out they had a daughter named Brianna, and it just seemed like all the pieces were really falling into place. And I remember I contacted them a few months later saying like, yes, I'd like to come. And I remember you had mentioned that there was an apartment on top of the orphanage that I could stay in. And they said, oh, well, actually that apartment's not available and you'll need to find your own host family. And I thought, my own host family, I don't know a soul in Tanzania. Like, how is this even going to work? And I remember that week I went to church, to Miami Temple, actually. At the time, I was at University of Miami. And I went to church. It was one of those Sabbaths where you kind of sit in the back and you're just like, I'm going to leave right after the service. And my friend said, wait, there's this guy I want you to meet. He's from Tanzania. That's where you wanted to go, right? And I was like, yes, but I'm really tired this week, like maybe another time. And she was really adamant, no, you've got to come. So I go out and I meet him and I say, hi, I'm trying to go to a really small town called Usa River, but I actually don't have a place to stay. And he said, I'm from Usa River. I have so many families who you could stay with. And so that was just the very start of God leading, because I actually did stay with a family that he recommended. And actually a few doors down from this home was a nursery school run out of a house that was in need of a lot of help. And that's actually where I ended up doing a lot of my projects. I did still go work at that orphanage and form some really good relationships with the staff there. And actually one of the staff members there actually works for my organization now. However, if I had only been on site at the orphanage, I don't think I would have gotten to explore the community like I did. I don't think I would have formed those really tight bonds. And I also don't think I would have made as much of an impact. And so God was working all along. I see a hand raised. Is that...
Hey, Brianna, what is the most beautiful thing that you've seen in Tanzania? Because a lot of us haven't been to Tanzania, so.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, some of the sunrises and sunsets that I've seen on the safaris that I've been on, I've been lucky enough now to go on probably at least 3 safaris, and there's just nothing like kind of waking up when you're on the open plains, or if you're on a bit of a mountain overlooking just a vast expanse of green trees, different, rivers and things like that. And the sunrises and sunsets are pretty phenomenal because the earth just looks like never ending. And so that's been amazing. I would say seeing some of the wildlife in their natural habitat has been amazing, such as elephants and lions. I think I often have to remind myself when I'm on those safaris that this is not a zoo. Like, this is actually the real deal. This is where they live. You are in their zone now. And so those are definitely some of the beautiful things there that I've seen. And then just to kind of walk you through that first year and some of the things that I did. So one of the things I noticed was that the kids at this nursery school, they really had no supplies. The learning wasn't interactive. And so you can imagine trying to have a group of kindergartners or preschool age kids and trying to get them to listen to you all day long without any sort of supplies. So there's no paper for them to color on. There is nothing colorful. It's going to be really challenging to keep their attention. And that was definitely the case in what was happening at the school. And so I even, God was working even before I came here, because as a high schooler, my church actually didn't have enough teenagers interested in Pathfinders in order to keep the club running at the time that I was a teenager. And so they actually asked me, hey, would you like to be the director of the Eager Beavers and Little Lambs? And I always give credit to my the adventure club directors at that time for giving a young person such responsibility. And I think that, when we do that, oftentimes people are up for the challenge, and we don't expect enough of others. And so I really give them credit for kind of pushing me and giving me such a role. And at the time, I was like the youngest Eager Beaver director in the state of Florida. I'm pretty sure we were the only club doing that. And I learned all of these skills, all these different crafts, all of these ways to engage young kids. And who knew that like 4 years later, I would need those exact skills in this small town in Tanzania. And so you can kind of see here some of the crafts we were able to do. In that upper portion, we were learning to string together pieces of pasta that we had dyed with dye that we found in the market. We made paper mache bowls and planes because all you need for that is flour, water, and newspaper. You can pretty much find that anywhere in the world that you are, and yet it translates to being a really fun activity for children. We were able to learn about the weather, and you can see us making rainbow crafts. And, you know, at night, if I wanted to make a craft for the next day, that meant that I was staying up the night before cutting out about 30 sets of these little pieces. If I wanted to make a worksheet, when I first got there, I didn't know how to have access to a copier or a printer. And so I was literally writing out worksheets hand by hand. But you know, it was really worth it for these kids. The next day, they were always so excited to come in. It was a lot of good mental stimulation for them. And what I found most rewarding was that kids who were kind of labeled as the troublemaker, you know, I wonder if maybe they had ADHD or something where they just weren't being taught in a way that was helpful for them. And it was really beautiful to see their behavior change. They became extremely engaged in what was going on, and just much more well-behaved. And so I was happy that we were able to kind of bring a new concept of learning and teaching to this area. Another thing that I noticed there was that when it was time to have like water time, there would be about potentially up to 60 kids per day and only 5 water cups. And they were all just kind of passing the cup along. And, you know, the kids may only get a couple sips of water. And as you know, if you're a thirsty child, that's just like not enough. So from a sanitation standpoint, it was not acceptable. And then from a standpoint of, is each child getting enough water? It probably wasn't up to par either. And so I was able to purchase a bunch of plastic water bottles. They were labeled with each child's name. And then every morning the school started the policy of boiling a giant vat of water so that each kid had enough clean water throughout the day. Whenever they were thirsty, they could go find their bottle. And that's a program that continues on to this day. So this is, you can see 2017. So we're going on almost 7 years ago now, and I was just in Tanzania in March, and they're still using this system at the school. So it was really exciting to see 7 years later that a plan still remains in place. And then along the veins of public health, I noticed that a lot of the kids had teeth that were brown, and even some of like the older adults. And I wasn't sure if it was because of poor dental hygiene, lack of access to toothbrushes, toothpaste, or I learned later that there is an issue of overfluoridation of the water, and that's where fluoride, to an extent, is protective for our teeth. So most of us are probably using fluoride toothpaste, and that's excellent. But there's actually a point where you transition from fluoride being helpful to fluoride actually being destructive. And so when you have too much fluoride, it can cause the tooth enamel to break down, which is why I was starting to see some people with brown teeth. So while it was hard for me to know what the case-by-case basis was for each person as to why that may have been happening, I knew that I could at least try to address it regardless. And so I asked the director, hey, do you have a plank of wood that I can put outside, and I can stick some toothbrushes in it, and I can take the kids over to the water spigot and teach them how to brush their teeth? And he said, sure, or I have this empty room. You can do whatever you want with it. And so I've learned that when you tell God, like, hey, I'll go, he is willing to work with you. He doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And so before you knew it, I was in the industrial market, bargaining in Swahili, hiring plumbers, and you can see my little drawing here, and it eventually turned into the Happy Teeth Center. And now even, 7 years later, the kids still enter the nursery school through this room. They all learn how to brush their teeth. They all have their toothbrushes. I'm lucky that the dental school here at Loma Linda University, as well as dental offices in the area, are willing to donate supplies for this. I see your hand.
How much Swahili have you learned?
A pretty good amount. I can definitely survive in Swahili over there. it was really important for me with working with kids. I learned right away that I need to be able to communicate with them. Otherwise, the classroom is chaos. And I think that's also really helped people there both respect and believe that I'm truly there for good motives because I'm learning their language to communicate in their way. And so, yeah, it's been really fun to learn Swahili. I can definitely survive pretty well in it over there.
You didn't learn that in Loma Linda Medical School, did you?
I did not. I learned by fire. When you have a classroom full of young kids who are going crazy, I needed to learn, sit down, please listen, stop, all of those sorts of things right away. And then actually, working at the orphanage, I became good friends with the cook. And so being friends with her was a huge blessing because that's how I learned all of my food names. I would go on the weekly shopping trips with her to the market, and she's buying, you know, a huge amount of food. And so that's where I learned my numbers. That's where I learned money. That's where I learned how to bargain in Swahili. And definitely, yeah, all my favorite food names and stuff. So even though I didn't spend much time at the orphanage, the time that I did spend there every week was really useful for like multiple reasons. And then these are just some pictures of opening day. I'll try a little bit later to show you pictures of, we recently renovated the Happy Teeth Center about, I think in March of this year. And so that was really exciting. We actually got a muralist to come in and do a really cool mural that is culturally sensitive. So we have, you know, a Maasai boy on there. We have someone there in their hijab because the country is half Muslim. And it's just kids in their own skin colors, just being represented. And so I really love that mural. We were able to retile the whole room, and just really get it up to speed. So that was exciting. And then the year after that, I went back and I knew that the kids didn't really have a safe place to play. So the only playground that I had seen nearby was actually located in the back of a bar. And so parents would take their kids there, they would drink, and then the kids would get to play. And so I wanted them to have like a better option. And so you can see in that top left picture, the before, and it was just a piece of blank land. And within 2 weeks, we got together a full playground. And it was really fun, and you know, it was down to the wire. I think this day where these pictures are taken was the final day where it finally got completed, and I flew out back to America that afternoon. So it was quite quick.
No, that playground looks like in Orlando where I just saw. Come on now, that's not in Tanzania.
I mean, that's always my goal, is to have a really good standard of care that kids everywhere deserve the same quality. And so I always try to do my projects to like the best of my ability to meet standards that are acceptable here and there. And so that was really exciting, but to build one this way, because oftentimes in my projects in Tanzania, I can get things done for cheaper than I could here in America. But in the case of the playground, it was a bit inverse because those plastic slide pieces have to be imported. And so that was actually a bit more of an expensive project. However, it was really cool to see other parts of the project, such as the swings, the ones that aren't metal were made by hand, completely out of wood. And even the ones that were made of metal, I believe, were made by hand there in Tanzania as well. So
one of the things I really like is that you really use your local folk, and anything you could use to save money, you work with them. So you're really very frugal.
Thank you. Yeah, I just know that the more I stretch the money, the more we can accomplish. So I really do try to keep that in mind. And some things that I know I won't be able to get there. For example, you can't really see it in the picture, but I wanted the kids to have a little like steering wheel and also a telescope just to really help with that imaginative play. So those were things that I brought over from America in my suitcase that got to be put into use there. And so, yeah, this was a really fun one. Again, it was really quick, but it was also exciting to kind of stretch the mindset of people there when they would go, oh, this is like a young woman who's heading this project. And it was like, yeah, we can do big things too. And so this was the team. I chose an organization that says that they take in orphans after they've aged out of the orphanage system to try and teach them a trade. And so I also really try to be cognizant of like who I'm hiring, who's working for me, and making sure that they're well compensated. And so I tried to help a little bit, but I learned that that was not my strong suit, and let them get back to it. But it was really cool to see it go from start to finish. And I think for all of my projects, there always comes a moment where, you know, in this case, when the construction pieces are all laying all around and you think, is this actually going to get done? And I think in these pictures was probably one of those moments where I said, I don't know if a full playground is going to come out of this, but God is always in control. And so far our projects have always been successful. So grateful to him for that. And this was the first day where they all tried the slides, and we had different techniques. Some were go-getters wanting to go as fast as they can. Others were a little more unsure of the decision they'd made when they were halfway down the slide, but it was a lot of fun. And then the year after that is when I decided that it seems like more people are getting interested in this. I want to take this bigger. I'd love to do bigger things with the projects. And so that's when I officially launched it as a 501c3 nonprofit, in the hopes that, you know, maybe we could get some more donations if people can get tax deductions, and just wanting to be more official with the whole process. And so that is the starter From Hearts to Hands. I see your hand on one moment. Just the name and what it really means is that, you know, so oftentimes we see things in life that are not good. Like they make us sad inside in our hearts. We instantly go, oof, that's not right. That's not how that should be. But oftentimes we get complacent. We kind of let that feeling fade away. But the goal is to take that feeling that's in your heart and put it to your hands, to action, to actually create a change for the problem that you saw. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually my question, is how did you get the name Hearts to Hands? So
yeah.
Remind me again, how many kids are in the orphanage, and what's the main course or food that they eat there in Tanzania? Is it rice or beans, or what kind? Just to kind of give everybody a sense. You said you love the food and fruits there.
Yeah. So we actually, our projects, you'll see, are kind of spread out throughout the whole country now. So we're not just set in one school or orphanage. But the one that you saw has it ranges from like 30 to 50 kids, depending on the time of year. And the food, oh man, yeah, I love Tanzanian food. So rice and beans is a big staple. One thing that's amazing is that the food truly is farm to table. So there are a few like supermarket like stores, but most likely those are going to be more expensive. And honestly, there's not really much you would want from there. So most of my food comes straight from the markets, and you would have, they make a great salad where they dice tomatoes. Well, they slice tomatoes, cucumbers, and onions really thin and dress it in like a vinegar. That's called kachumbari. They have a really delicious flatbread, kind of in between like a naan and a tortilla. It's flaky. That's called chapati. They have something very popular in Tanzania called chips mayai, and chips is potatoes and mayai means eggs. And essentially they dice up potatoes as if they're going to make French fries, and then they fry that and then pour an egg over it. So it almost forms like this frittata like dish, and you can get that on the side of the road. It takes about 2 minutes to cook up. Some people dice vegetables into it, and that is really delicious. Mm-hmm. I see your hand is still up. I don't.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I need to bring it down.
No problem. So yeah, the food is really amazing, and I think, I mean, I already loved Tanzania, but I think that really helps too when you go somewhere and you love the food, because I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything in the food department. So I went back the next year, and this time the goal was to tackle a safety project. So at that nursery school, you can see in this picture, when they were transporting some of the kids to school, it would be 15 students crammed into a 5-seater car. obviously not the safest thing. And so I raised money all year long in order for us to purchase this van. And you can see in the picture, you wouldn't maybe be able to pick them out, but I took 2 of my medical school colleagues with me as well. And so that was really special for them to get to kind of experience what I talk about all year long. And so that was really special. And there's always a behind the scenes. So that first picture is me actually negotiating the price of the vehicle, making sure that we were getting the best price. And then we had to gut out the entire inside of the car, reupholster all the seats just so that it was appropriate for the kids. And yeah, so that was really exciting. And then the next year kind of gets us into the whole COVID sphere time of life. And we all know that that was extremely disruptive in many ways and just turned our lives upside down. And so for me, it actually stopped me from being able to travel to Tanzania. And so you might have thought that, oh, the projects that she was doing, everything's going to come to a standstill. But again, God was working prior. And before I had started establishing the Mind Investor program. And basically the idea is to take kids from really crowded government schools or from, kids might not be going to school at all and transfer them into private schools that have a really good classroom ratio. In some of the public schools, unfortunately, you can sometimes see 100 students per 1 teacher classroom ratios. Additionally, oftentimes, students need to purchase their own notebooks and supplies and things like that. And for some of these families, it's just not feasible. So you can imagine if you're in the back of a classroom with no supplies, you're kind of going to get passed over several times. And so that was something unfortunate that I wanted to help. And so I knew that a lot of the kids that I worked with at the nursery school, they were young and they were about to be transitioning into those government schools. And so that kind of got my mind thinking of how can we help them moving forward. And so we started sponsoring their educations in various schools. So some students attend an Adventist, like middle school, high school. Other students are just in good private schools. We have about 13 students total, 12 in Tanzania, 1 in Uganda. If you see that little girl in the green and yellow dress, you might remember her from that first picture when I was working with Loma Linda in Uganda. She has osteogenesis imperfecta, and that's a disease where your bones are just extremely brittle, almost like glass. And so you can break your bones basically at any moment, unfortunately, if someone picks you up too roughly or you bump your leg. And so it's a really challenging disease to have. And her mother was just her biggest champion. She brought her to be checked out, but then also would instantly pull out her daughter's school books and say, look at what a good student she is. Look at her grades. Like, please, let's help her. I need help with her school fees, etc. And so I really felt for this girl, and she's bright, she has a beautiful smile, and this mom was championing for her daughter so much, trying to advocate. And so I actually went and visited her school and paid her school fees for that next year. And then a little bit later, she was actually transferred to one of the Adventist schools in Uganda in the area. And so we're really excited that she's doing well and really loving her time there. And so we also have 2 who have earned college certificates, and I'll explain that a little bit, but I'll take your question first.
So she doesn't have arms? I mean, I'm looking at the dress.
I know she does have arms, but just everything for her is kind of stunted. So
Okay, stunted.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
her legs are a bit smaller, and then unfortunately, when she does break a bone, it can cause like curvature and those sorts of things. Yeah, and I believe, it seems to be a single parent home. Her mom really struggles as well. So we're trying to keep a close tab on this young girl to try and make sure we can help her get through.
I forgot. You're the expert. Is that congenital?
That's a good question.
Yeah. I remember is it the blue sclera or the blue
Yes.
pupil or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that one, but boy,
Yeah.
interesting.
So yeah, so that's this program, and it's been really rewarding. Some of these kiddos, so the top two boys in the blue shirts, I have known them now for the whole 7 years. They were taught by me in that little classroom, and now they're just excelling and doing really well. And it's been great because they've been able to attend schools that also teach English. And so from going from when I first met them and we're really struggling to communicate in broken Swahili to now being able to have like full conversations in English is really exciting. And just because it gives them more opportunities with jobs to know both languages. And then let's see. To talk about, okay, so I'll talk more about the college certificate. So at the nursery school, the woman who was the teacher for these young students, she was amazing, very engaged, very kind, but she wasn't fully educated. And so we were able to send her to the local college, which was actually less than a mile away from the nursery school. And she was able to get her full certificate in early childhood education, which is really exciting because not only does it give her more options later in life, but hopefully it also you know, increase the quality of the education that these kids were getting.
So, question is costs. What does it look like, the cost for them to go to school, like the secondary or elementary, just to kind of give us an idea, because we're trying to use this with your presentation to help. We want to help you and want to raise funds. So just kind of give us all an idea. I know colleges, of course, is going to be more than secondary and elementary, but what kind of numbers are you looking at annually?
Yeah. So for an elementary school student, it's about $600 for the whole year. And that includes transportation for them, their uniforms, their school supplies, food every day. And also they have multiple uniforms. So there they have uniforms for PE, they have uniforms for school. And so that covers all of that. For someone in secondary school, which would be the equivalent of like 7th grade to 12th grade, it ranges about, I would say 1,100 to 1,200. But for most of those students, that will also include boarding because many of the secondary schools are live-in. So those are kind of the numbers. And then to talk about the other college certificate that was earned. So when I went to Tanzania my first year, I went to a popular hike where you hike kind of through some villages and then there's supposed to be a waterfall at the end. But to get to the waterfall, you have to descend down the mountains to get to this like kind of hidden waterfall. And when you get to the top, before you're about to descend, you'll see a bunch of group of boys come out. They're pretty young, and their job is to kind of help you down. And it's, you know, they're not hired by a company, but it's just what they're doing to try and get some extra funds. And they spend about 5 hours helping you get safely down this ravine and see this waterfall and get you safely up. And truly, if they were not there, we would not make it safely. You absolutely need them. And unfortunately, you know, I think many people don't expect that these boys will be there to help you. And so the tips that they're given are quite small, maybe the equivalent of like $5 US or less for having just spent 5 hours helping you get down safely. And I remember I felt bad, and a year later or 2 years later, I went back to the same hike and I saw one of the same guys. And I said, hey, like, how are you? How's life? And he said, it's good, but like, nothing's changed. And I could see that everything unfortunately was the same for him and his family. He had several siblings. He is Maasai, and so, you know, they have cows and all of those sorts of things. But he had lots of young siblings who needed fees to go to school. And so I said, I'd like to help you. Can I take a video for you to share your story? And he said, yes. So he shared his story, and I took that video back to my home church and I shared it. And, you know, that very night he had a sponsor. And he was able to go to vocational college and get his certificates in tour guide management and safari skills, and also get his driving license for commercial driving. And now, you know, he works for a safari company. And I remember he messaged me like, I got a tip for $200. And so to go from making a $2 tip to making $200 tip, and he's able to help support his family. Even to the point where I went back last year and I met up with him again, and I said, I'd love to, can we share your story via video? And at that time he wasn't willing, just because he said, you know, where I was then, like, that's not where I am now. And so that's totally fine, but I think it just shows that he felt he had made such a 180 in his life. And so I think that is really a beautiful testament to how this program can work and how it can change lives forever. And our goal is to take, if we do sponsor a kid, to take them through at least the high school level. So
200 Tanzanian dollars?
no, 200 US dollars.
Whoa, wow.
That was a huge, a huge tip for him. So super exciting moment. And then one thing that I really try to continue as I do all my projects is continuity. I think it's vital to the true success and impact of your mission. I hope that the people I've interacted with truly feel like I'm in it with them for the long haul. And this little guy, he was the one on the slide who was the most adventurous, and his name is Ibra. He's in the orange shirt, and that picture in 2017 is from when I first met him. And he actually lived behind me, behind the house that I lived in. His family rented like one room for all of them. So you can imagine 4 people to one room. There's no bathroom, no kitchen. And we started talking through the fence, and then he would come over every day for dinner and then every day for breakfast. And he kind of just became my little best friend. And at the time, his mom was selling salt for like less than $1 a day wage. And he was actually the reason I started the Mind Investor program, because I remember I left Tanzania and I made a little Facebook post about him, and I said, you know, I've really grown close to him and I hope that his life is going to be okay, but keep him in your prayers. And then I thought, I can do more than pray. Of course, God can do everything, but he's also equipped me to be able to do things. And so that's when I said, no, I'm going to sponsor him. And then it kind of spread from there. And so this picture in the middle is from March of this year. So about 7 years later, and you know, that he's still my little best friend, and he's doing really well. At the beginning, I remember it was a struggle just to get him to write his name, and now you can see his school books just full of supplies, and it's been really beautiful just to see the family progress as well. They've done that independently, but maybe seeing their kids in a good school has been like inspirational for them. And so they now have their own like little house that has multiple rooms and things like that. And his little brother now we keep an eye on as well. And so it's just been a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then also during the COVID years was our wheelchair project. So I met a young girl named Upendo, and Upendo actually means love in Swahili. And I was contacted about her, and someone said, hey, there's this girl that we found. She is paralyzed from the waist down. She was born that way, but in her village, it's seen as a curse. So she's been kind of pushed to the outskirts. No one's really interacting with her or her family, and she needs help. And so we were able to find her a school for the disabled. Those are harder to come by in Tanzania. However, if you can find them, the cost is quite low in comparison to other schools. And in enrolling her here, I received pictures, you know, of where she was. And I noticed that a lot of the kids did not have wheelchairs. And so they're literally dragging themselves around on the dirt, on the ground. It's just, you know, not acceptable. And so from abroad, we were able to do a fundraiser, and 10 kids got new wheelchairs, and they were all really excited. And I was able to meet a lot of these kids later, which was a really beautiful moment to go from seeing them in a picture to seeing them in real life. And so I'll show you some more of that later. And then
Brianna, excuse me.
Yeah.
When you go back to the picture, I noticed that some of them have the holes in the knees. So they were probably crawling around on their knees.
Exactly.
To wear a hole through your kneecaps like that usually indicates that's what's happening.
Exactly. Wow. And
Yeah,
that's exactly what was happening. And, you know, some of them don't even have like fully functioning hands. So when they're crawling around on their knees, they're also on like their wrists or their knuckles the whole time, elbows. So they've really been through a lot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing that you've been able to help them. Yeah. All right.
I'm happy to. And then as a medical student, in my 4th year of medical school, I'm blessed to be at Loma Linda, where global missions is a big part of what we do. And so in my 4th year of medical school, I was able to actually spend about 3 months traveling across the continent of Africa, working in different settings. And I went to 3 places, but the second place I went is probably one of our most rural Adventist hospitals that we have anywhere in the world. It's in Bere, Chad, and this country is in Central Africa, and it has only 4% of the population having access to electricity, just to give you an idea of what it's like. And so traveling there, as I flew throughout Africa, on this trip with all the layovers and all of those things, I probably took at least 15 flights. And so I kind of got used to looking out the window as I'm about to land somewhere to maybe get an idea of where I'm going. And, some of the other places you're landing, you see lots of city lights or, you see something. As I flew into Chad, it was pitch black, except for I was literally seeing like campfires, like cooking fires and those sorts of things out of my window. And I said, oh my goodness, this is where I'm going. This will be an adventure. And it absolutely was. You can see here, it's a very low resource hospital. It's great for that area though. People travel huge distances to go there. They will go on motorcycle rides for 3 days just to get to this hospital. For me to get there, I flew into the capital city of N'Djamena, and then I did a 10-hour bus ride. I would say 90% of that was on completely unpaved roads. And then from there, got off of this 10-hour bus ride and hopped onto the back of a motorcycle, hired another motorcycle to carry my suitcases, and then traveled 2 hours through the middle of nowhere, passing actual like groups of hippos on the side of the road, going through herds of cows. It was quite an experience. And then you finally make it to this hospital. And you can see our resources were extremely low. So here I am caring for a baby literally in a cardboard box because there are no cribs, there are no incubators. This baby is hooked up to the 1 oxygen unit for the entire hospital. So there is about maybe 100 plus patients there at a time and 1 oxygen unit for all of them, pediatrics and adults combined.
Wow.
So,
Is the baby all right? Did she make it okay?
this baby unfortunately did not make it, but at the time of the picture was doing okay. But it was sad because unfortunately it was like a condition that here in America we could, I believe, have saved the child.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah. And then in the other picture, you can see what looks like a bucket, but that's actually the baby scale. And that's how we weigh the children. So we just put them in this hanging from the tree and we can get their weight. And then just another reason like the trip was so phenomenal was just getting to interact with so many different groups of people. The Fulani tribe is actually the largest nomadic tribe throughout Africa, and they're a migratory group. And this family, I don't know exactly why we connected, maybe because they felt like I kind of looked like them, or I looked at least like the babies that were born. But this was a special instance where I got to actually listen to the baby in mom's belly and hear their heartbeat, and then also care for them after they were born. I see a hand. Is there a hand?
Someone's hand?
Yes, yes. Brianna, can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Yes, this is Marcel.
Hi.
I would like you to tell us a little bit because I happen to have spent some time in Africa, and one of the lasting memories I have of my time in Sierra Leone, West Africa, was our local resident doctor made a statement that I've never forgotten and I will never forget. And I'd like you to expound on that experience that you have. He says that we can look at all these pictures, and these pictures will tear at our heartstrings or pull at our heartstrings. But he says pictures that don't smell. If you can paint the picture for us of with the sense of smell, what it is, what your experience has been like in those countries that you've visited, that would help to give us a balance, not only of seeing the pictures, but smelling the environment in which you were in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, our sense of smell is a powerful one. I think especially when you're in a hospital in a low resource area, hospitals are going to have a lot of smells in general. You know, we're dealing with a lot of body fluids. You're dealing with a lot of people in one area close together. In this case, a lot of the families literally have traveled from very far and are living on site at the hospital. And so you have the actual wards, but then on the grounds outside of the wards, and I may have a picture of this, you just have the families camped out on rugs, and they will stay there and be primary caretakers for their family members until it's time to leave the hospital. So at times, I mean, it's very hot in Chad. It's hot in a lot of the countries I've been to. Yeah, the smells can be unpleasant, that's for sure. And I can kind of like, I guess, take you more visually through, you know, what these hospitals are like. There's just, in a lot of places, a lack of supplies. So in our hospitals, it's a stark contrast. You're constantly changing your gloves. You have endless access to masks, everything like that. I had to bring my own masks, my own gloves, my own kind of like everything. And, you know, so everyone's just kind of trying to do the best that they can. You know, I want to remain respectful of them because it's not their fault, like the conditions that they're having to live in, but it can definitely be just a strong experience, like overall. But with this family, they were, yeah, just really so welcoming. They had twins, as you can see here, and they kept saying like, you take one, we take one, or they'd be like, you come to the bush like with us. And I was like, no, like you must keep both of your babies. And another thing that I think, you know, traveling so extensively has really benefited with me is just learning that our way and my way is not the only way that this, you know, this world functions. In their culture, it's a little hard to pick up in the picture, but scarification and like face tattoos is a big thing. And so they had all these intricate designs all over their face. And I can imagine, you know, they may have been looking at me like, oh, you know, this girl could be cute, but oh, we really need to get some of those like tattoos on her face or something like that. And so just really recognizing that, you know, it's a big world and there's so many different cultures, and I don't think one is like better than the other, and just really getting a broad view of the world has been a beautiful thing because, you know, we did not speak the same language whatsoever. They spoke their tribal language and maybe a little bit of Arabic. I don't know either of those, but yet you can see we were able to form a bond throughout the days. And another way just to highlight how life is different, one day they just said, well, you know, we have to leave. The herd is moving. The cows are leaving, so we leave too. And that was that. They left. And so just realizing, yeah, life is just so different. I see the hand again.
Unmute, Kenny.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't lower my hand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like that was a nomadic type tribe. They're following the herd. My goodness me. And 4% in the whole country only have electricity. That's crazy. We are dang spoiled. 4%. I can't imagine.
Yeah. So I would say for the entire 10-hour bus ride, I don't know how many miles that was, but I don't think any of the areas I passed had electricity. So you're literally passing camels, and it's just a completely different way of life.
And Brianna, I've traveled a little bit, you know, in the West Indies, but to travel on a bus that's not, you know, that's not a luxury cushion bus. there to travel on the back of a motorcycle. Come on now, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What sacrifice? What commitment? What dedication? Oh my goodness, 10 hours on a bus and so many hours on a motorcycle?
Yeah, and I'd like to read a little part of because I don't know, let me see if I have it in here. Okay, doesn't look like I have it. Let me go back. But I actually got malaria while I was there and parasites at the same time. And so while I was kind of stuck in my room, there was a guidebook in my room, most likely for decor, but I decided it was a guidebook of like countries throughout Africa. I think all of them are in there. And so I was like, oh, let me turn to Chad and just see what they have to say about it. And it was not really the thing you want to be reading as you're stuck, unable to really move, because I'll kind of explain to you how Chad is described. Let's see if I can find it. 1 second. Okay, it says, make no mistake, traveling in Chad is no walk in the park. There is intense rebel activity across the entire south and southeast, and the chances of further rebel attacks on N'Djamena, which is where I flew into, are high. All Western governments advise against travel to Chad. And so this is as I'm, sitting there, and I said, oh my goodness. And then I read on, and it said, wave goodbye to your comfort zone and say hello to Chad. If Ghana and Gambia are Africa for beginners, Chad is Africa for the hardcore. To say that travel here can be tough is a major understatement. In much of the country, the roads are utterly diabolical, the tourist infrastructure somewhat below zero, the corruption wallet draining, the summer heat mind melting, and the security situation highly unstable. And it says, people come to Chad because it promises them an opportunity to fall completely off the edge of the known world and into a place that promises experiences good and bad that you'll be recalling forever. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely just a feeling of being transported into a completely different world. There's a lot of beauty in that for sure. I think, again, it's great to be shocked into remembering my Western view, my Western way of life is not the only way. But at the same time, sometimes, it was a little frightening traveling. I see a couple hands. I think, Len, you've had yours up for a while.
Okay, I'll go first and I'll let you go after Kenny. The scarring, the marks that they make in African countries. I was taught this by an African that if they lose a child or a child is stolen, they can always identify that child later in life because that scar they put on them, it's a way of identifying their children, like they're nomads, they're moving around. If some kid gets stolen and they're moving somewhere else, they may come across that child years later, but they know it's their child.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That makes sense. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, my question is the security. I mean, you're talking about being, your life, and I mean, many of the movies of Africa talks about just, the different tribes going up against each other, the militia, the violence, and you are there doing medical and doing missionary type work. I mean, did you have a bodyguard or 2 or 3, or was it just your guardian angel, or what? I mean, what were your concerns? Weren't you concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I just had my guardian angels with me, but I tried to make, good decisions. Originally, I was supposed to travel from the capital city to the hospital completely by myself. But I wasn't really comfortable with that because in Chad, everyone speaks French and I don't have any French knowledge. And I knew that it was such a long journey, and I had heard that at times the bus can just break down and the driver just walks away for the night, and and so I always try to be smart. And so I actually had the local woman who met me in the capital, I asked her to accompany me all the way through to get to the hospital. And then, you know, typically these hospitals you hope are safe places. They're almost like sacred places that are protected just because of the idea that, you know, people are coming there for help. At the time, the country was relatively stable, and I wasn't on the borders where a lot of the conflict happens. So I just tried to be mindful of like local customs. So while I'm traveling, like I will, you know, cover my head and those sorts of things.
And the other question is malaria. You said you got malaria. Were you vaccinated prior and you still got malaria from a different type, or what happened?
Yeah, so there's not really an accessible vaccine for malaria, but I was on the prophylactic medications. It's hard to know where I got it because I was in Liberia first, and then I went to Chad. So I was on the West Coast, and when I first went to Liberia, I didn't think I needed the prophylaxis there, but when I got there, I found that like people who'd been there right before me had gotten malaria. So I started taking the medication there. But you know, there were mosquitoes there were mosquitoes in Chad, so it's hard to know, but I've kind of just been told that anyone who goes to Beret, it's very unlikely that you will get away without getting malaria. But I was lucky in that I had brought over medication to treat it that works really well. It's only a 3-day course of pills. And again, it just shows the privilege that I have to even have access to that medication because the treatment of choice in Chad, it has really bad side effects. So you're dealing with malaria, and then you also have the side effects of the medication, making you nauseous and things like that. So I was lucky to have that medication.
We have one more raised hand. Paul Ashley, go ahead.
Yeah, Brianna. Man, I took my hat off to you. I mean, it tells me how much faith you have. I mean, it's blew my mind just hearing you talk about traveling across these danger roads and stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy. So, where do they follow the cows to? I mean, why do they follow the cows? Is this just a ritual, or I mean, do you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, I'm not super educated on them, but I would believe it's for like
Food.
grazing lands, yeah, to follow the food and the waters. Like wherever, if the cows deplete the grass in one region, it's time to move on. If the rain's not falling in one region and there's no water, got to move on. And I imagine they may have times throughout the year that it's just planned for them to migrate anyways.
So apart from the danger of bandit or whatever, what about animals? Like,
Yeah, so in this area, I don't believe there are any lions or things like that. We do have those more like in Tanzania. I know that hippos are actually a big risk in this area, so I wasn't about to go swimming in the river, but I know that the hospital has had to treat many hippo injuries. Hippos can actually be really aggressive and they have huge, like forceful jaws, so that could be a concern. But I think honestly, the biggest danger is the smallest animal, the mosquito, with their ability to carry malaria.
wow. So when you go into those areas, you got to get vaccinated.
Oh yeah, so lots of vaccinations. I got vaccinated for typhoid, which was an interesting experience because that's actually an oral vaccine. And so I had to take pills for about a week at a specific time each day. And you can't let the pill stay on your tongue for too long or else it will start to, you know, dissolve. And so it's a very regimented process, but I was really grateful that I did that because while I was there, a volunteer who, and I want to highlight that, you know, I was there for a month, but there are people from America who have dedicated like years and years of their life to being in this environment and helping people there. So this volunteer had been there for 2 years, and the year prior, she actually had gotten typhoid. And one of the side effects of typhoid is that it can cause your intestines to perforate. And she actually had to get open abdominal surgery at this hospital for that. So it made me grateful while I was there that I had actually taken the vaccine because I wasn't sure, oh, do I really need to take such a strong vaccine? But I was grateful for it.
You guys are one of a kind, man.
So yeah, so it was quite an experience. And one of the other projects, because when I went, I just went for school, and so I wasn't necessarily thinking of I would be implementing projects, but as you can kind of see, it's just in my nature. If I see something and I know that it would be easy enough to make a change, like I feel compelled, like we have to do it. And so this is actually the maternity ward of that hospital. And when I got there, there were no mosquito nets. And so it's just open air. And you can kind of see in the back there where the roof goes up to the apex, underneath it, that's all open. I don't believe there's like a screen or anything there. And so in a country where malaria is a huge issue, I just felt like the women were not being adequately protected. And so I was able to find mosquito nets in the market, and by the time I left, the whole maternity ward had mosquito nets for each bed. These are two men, their I think wife / sister is under the net there, and they were just really happy that she got to be protected. And then they were also happy to share that they were Adventists and they were recent converts to our faith, and they were just really excited to share that with me. So that was exciting. And then another thing,
So before you, I want to say this to the gentleman. Not only does she need our financial help, but prayers.
yes.
Prayers. You gotta pray. For what I'm listening to, I mean, she need prayers.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much. That is vital, absolutely vital. And so, I think a motto in my head is like, see problems, find solutions. Again, it's like maybe God made me this way, but also just the things in my life that I enjoy. I enjoy watching like DIY shows on YouTube, seeing people make things from nothing, those sorts of things. And so one thing I noticed was that for childbirth, a lot of these women coming to the hospital may have been coming from really far away. Maybe it was an emergency situation where they just grabbed what they had and had to come to the hospital. And so some of them didn't have anything to put the baby in once the baby was born. At this hospital, unfortunately, it is so low resource that there are no paper towels. There are no towels. As you know, childbirth is a process that involves a lot of fluid, and you only can use what you bring with you. So if these women did not have fabric with them, they kind of didn't have anything. And so I went to the local market where they had lots of fabric, and we were able to, out of one piece of fabric, make enough that could cover a mother and also cover a baby. And so this is still like ongoing now to this day, where if a mother comes to the hospital and she doesn't have what she needs, we are able to give her a cloth both for herself and for the baby. And this is a picture you can see here. The fabric that's draping over her legs also matches the fabric that her baby is wrapped in. So I got sent this picture maybe a few years or a year ago or something like that after I had left, just kind of showing me that the project was ongoing. And then this video will kind of show you a clothing project that I was able to do there as well. So hopefully the sound works.
In Bere Chad, there is a village where the mission doctors often go to have church with the kids. And these kids are awesome. But my goodness, the poverty is staggering. Most of these kids only have one pair of clothes. So I figured I could start with fixing that. I found clothes for babies and boys aged 0 to 10 for less than $2 a set. For the girls, we bought fabric and found a tailor who was willing to make the dresses for 98 cents each, and he made them all in less than 30 hours. It's crazy that $2 is too expensive for families for clothes. Next is delivery time, and yep, that included an hour-long motorcycle ride. Everybody lined up, and then it was distribution time. The moms were super excited too. Check out these before and afters. Some kids really wanted to hold tight to their new clothes. So I did this for the smiles, to meet basic needs, but also to answer the question, what is the role I was born to right? And this is a good sign.
that was a really fun project. Again, I highlight like the talent of the local people there to be able to construct, 15 or whatever the number was amount of dresses within 2 days, and also have like the ingenuity to make it to where the waistbands were all elastic to hopefully these will last these kids over years. Yeah, just super, super talented people, and that was a great project. It was fun. So after that, I flew straight to Tanzania, and I had before I left Tanzania, or before I left America, I had done a project with the medical students here where they could write a card for a child who I would encounter in a hospital in Tanzania. And so they wrote an encouraging card, some were in English, some were in Swahili, some were mixed English Swahili. And then they also included a picture of themselves holding the card so that the kids could know who wrote these words, who cares about me. So I took over probably about 80 of these cards and got to deliver them both to kids in Liberia, but also in Tanzania. And it was just really exciting. The kids were so happy, and I think the parents also as well just felt like it was a really special experience. And then another project we had starting last year was our feminine hygiene product. And so over there, access to sanitary supplies can be quite difficult. And a lot of people are using things they shouldn't be, like rags and leaves and things like that. And so we wanted to create a reusable product for some of these girls in more of the remote areas. We were able to start out small. So we designed a product and distributed it to 35 girls at first. After it was successful, we distributed to another 350 girls and then another 350 girls. So at this point, we're at about almost, over 700 girls who have been impacted. 735, I guess, to be exact. So that's been an exciting public health project as well. I see a hand.
What were they doing before this? I mean, what did they use?
Yeah, so they were using like old rags, maybe leaves. Additionally, a huge issue we see is that some girls will stay out of school for the entire week or week and a half that their cycle is occurring. And so we see that it affects their education in a large way, but then also there's a stigma. So if you are not able to keep yourself clean because you don't have the adequate supplies, maybe people don't wish to be around you, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why a project like this is important. And so it's something where there has to be ongoing funds for us to kind of continue this project on. So for now, it's only been about the 700 girls, and we do want to, like, of course, modify the design and make it better. But when we distributed, the girls get pads, they get a carrying pouch, they get a bucket, we give them laundry soap to hopefully get them through the first months that they'll be using these. And then they're also holding, you can see, an instructional packet where we want to make sure they know how to properly use everything, how to do it in a clean, safe way.
So this is washable or disposable?
Washable.
Or I can't tell.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's reusable, a reusable product.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Brianna, you're just a miracle worker. I mean, you got all these ideas. You're so innovative and raising the funds. I mean, you just know how to multiply. My goodness.
God has been really, really good. So yeah, it's exciting. And I think it just always starts small. So you start small, you see if it's successful, and then you're able to like rinse and repeat the projects. And so this is just some more of those girls at the school. And then in 2023, we also did a science lab project. And so it's the local Adventist school where we have some kids sponsored. Some of the kids that you saw in the pictures attend this school. And I went to check in on the kids one year and I said, how's everything going? And they said, it's good. We really like our teachers. We do like this school, but I want to be a doctor or I want to be an engineer, and there are no science labs for us here. And so I said, okay, well, we'll see what I can do. And this was definitely one of my crazier endeavors because I think we completed this in about a week. And so you can see the planning process, trying to figure out where everything is going to go. And then we were able to find all sorts of lab supplies, purchase those so they can have all the beakers that they need, anatomical models of the heart, the eye, the brain, physics equipment, all of those sorts of things. And then we were able to hire local artists. And like I said, the talent is insane because you can see the diagrams of like the cell and the DNA and all sorts of things on the back wall there. So that was really exciting for these kids. And they've been able to use the science lab for projects for the last like year or so. So
What Adventist school and what country again?
this is in Tanzania. It's called Goodwill Novelis Adventist Secondary School. This is in Arusha, Tanzania. So, yep, we might have some future scientists and doctors coming out of this school. And then this is one of my favorite projects. This was actually at the school where the wheelchair project was done. And so again, I had never visited the school yet at this point, but I was sending the one child there and I was getting pictures of like, hey, this is what the facility looks like. And I was kind of in shock because a lot of these kids, like we described, do not have use of their legs, and yet their toilets are looking like the before, where their pit latrines, their ground level. And while that is a common toilet that you'll find abroad, it can be challenging even with, 2 working legs. So I wasn't sure how these kids were managing. And so we worked to get them 10 brand new bathrooms. They're all handicap accessible, so most are Western style toilets with bars, and then next to it you can also see we put showers in all of the bathrooms because I'm not sure what bath time was looking like, so it was important to us that it was the detachable shower that could be really easily used. And so this one is just so rewarding because disability is a stigma many places, but especially in some of these villages. And when I did actually get to go and see this project years or months after it was completed, I realized that now these kids have the best bathrooms for miles and miles. And so people who are considered the least now have the best. And this, I hope to encourage everyone that never limit yourself, because I organized and oversaw this whole project from my iPhone 8,000 miles away. And so it was completed completely with me not on the ground. We raised the roof, everything got redone, and I hired a local artist to put artwork up where the kids felt like they were seen. So that's always important to me. So most of the drawings on the wall depicted children with wheelchairs or crutches or things like that, but playing and doing all sorts of things. So that was fun. And you can see here some of the kids using the new place. And so the sinks are all a height where wheelchairs can roll right up to it, which is really important. Can I see your hand?
So you must have a core group there in Arusha that you really trust, because I'm not sure many of us would be sending funds and advice and expecting a project like this to succeed, and you're all the way across 8,000 miles away.
Yeah, so I think that's the other thing that's nice about having been back so many times to Tanzania. I really do have like a core team now that I can trust. And that's like really invaluable. Trust is everything both here and abroad. And I know there's lots of stories sometimes of mismanagement, but at this point I've been working with all these people for 7 years, and we're really all in it for the same mission, which I'm really blessed to have found people who have always wanted to help their own community, but didn't have the resources to. And so now they're just thrilled to be able to have a hand in doling out these projects. And so it's just a beautiful balance to have people who align with what you want to do. And then, as you can see, there's kind of a theme here. These projects all bleed into each other. So you see something, and then you do that, and then you see more and more and more. So at this same facility, I learned that during the rainy season, these kids are trying to get to class with their wheelchairs, and it looks like this, to where it's extremely difficult for them to trudge through the mud, and they're also really, they're tired. They're counting on their young friends to be able to push them through. And so the goal was to make the entire school handicap accessible. And so to give you a picture, there's the orphanage, which is where the girl was staying, but then they attend a government school, which is next door, that is both like disabled kids and not disabled kids. And so that area, when they go to school, it has no sidewalks for them. And so in the rainy season, it's disastrous. So we were able to, I'll play this video and it'll kind of show you what we were able to do. Let's see.
That's the power tools, a cement truck, a nearby water source, or even ready-made gravel. Is it even possible? Oh, let's go check it out. And what's your guess? Success or fail?
So you can kind of see what a process it is and how involved it is to even say you're going to build something there. There was no water source at the orphanage, so water's being sucked up from some sort of pond, placed into a water transport tank, and then driven to this place. But you can see the final product. Let's see if we can take a look.
We didn't want kids to have to sludge through mud to get to school. So, the wheelchair pathway, guess what? It's done. Let's see the finished product.
So that was that, which was really exciting. Okay. So yeah, that project was, oh, I see a hand. Mhm.
I was gonna say, are most of those children handicapped because of birth or some accidents, or what is the main cause for most of these kids having to use a wheelchair?
It's hard to know. I would say it's a mixture. Some of the kids, like I know Upendo, who I talked about earlier, that was just something that she was born with. But there's another young woman who we have also sponsored who lost her leg due to a cooking fire accident when she was a baby. So I think you probably have a mixture, but also because this school is one of the few disabled schools, I think there's lots of kids coming from different areas. It's not necessarily that this particular area has a lot more disabled kids than another. It's just that this school is like where you would go to get those services.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then now it comes to the project that you guys helped with, which is really exciting. So this is in Dodoma, Tanzania, and it's actually the capital city of Tanzania. So you have a mixture of obviously a big city and then some of these more rural areas as well. And so the tribe that we worked with is called the Gogo tribe. These are their dwellings. Most of the homes do look pretty similar to this, built out of clay or the mud bricks with some sort of a straw roof. And in one of the schools, I was notified that there's a school where all of these kids are sitting on the floor every day. And so, it's 8 hours a day of school. That can't be a great learning environment. And so this is what I had talked about with you guys at the last meeting. And because of your donations, we were able to make it happen for them. And so I'm excited to kind of show you the final result. Our goal was 50 desks. We were able to complete 39 with the donations that were given. And so we still have a bit more to reach our goal, but I'm excited to kind of show you what the final result looks like for them. So you can see here, this is the classroom I got to visit this March, and they all have desks now. You can fit about 3 children per one desk, and you can look at the floor there and just see how rough it is. And I'd like to show you some videos that I made about this project. So it'll be about 3-minute videos total.
Remember when I talked about a problem in a classroom in Dodoma? Remember when I talked about a problem in a classroom in Dodoma? Well, what's the problem? Let's get into it. In this classroom, kids are coming to school every day and sitting on the rough cement floor for hours. There's no chairs. Can you imagine trying to learn for 8 hours a day when it's super uncomfortable? Well, these kids are still coming to school and loving it. But as you know, here at From Hearts to Hands, our philosophy is just because kids are managing to thrive and be resilient in a bad situation doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to make it better. So let's do it. Let's get these kids some desks. Stay tuned.
So that was part 1. And then now you're lucky we get to see, let's see, part 2. Let me move this toolbar at the top if I can. How can I move it? Oh, there we go. Okay, so then this is part 2. This will kind of show you a bit of the construction process.
A desk is not just a desk. Each piece has a story, starting as a simple plank of wood transformed by a skilled fundi. At From Hearts to Hands, craftsmen and women, also known as fundis, are the backbone of our projects, and I want to honor the hands that make our work possible. These desks were crafted locally by community members who know this school well. It was heartwarming to see their excitement in helping their own people, pouring sweat and hard work into every piece. And like I said earlier, a desk is not just a desk. This desk may support a child's notebook and pencil, where a passion for numbers is ignited that leads to revolutionary mathematical formulas transforming their economy. These wooden seats may uplift the next president as a child's interest in politics is sparked by an enthusiastic teacher. The cure for cancer could begin at this very desk. These desks will be the foundation of friendships, where whispers of jokes spark laughter. A child who is in a well-made desk is a child whose mind is free to grow, to wonder, to explore, and expand, because their body is comfortable and at ease. So it was never just about a desk. To our fundis, we salute you and we thank you. This project is just as much yours as it is ours. Remember when I talked about a problem in a
That was super. I hope you get like a good glimpse of how the community is like so involved in this project as well. We're supporting the local economy, we're supporting jobs, and it's just really special, I think, to see the community feel empowered to help their own people as well. And I'll show the final video, which is delivery day of when the desks actually arrive, but I see your hand first.
No, go ahead, Al.
What's under this blue plastic tarp? You may have an idea, but it's more than you think.
happy that we have these desks here for you. Think that you all have a really great future. You can be presidents, you can be doctors, you can be lawyers, you can be engineers, you can be teachers, you can be anything that you want to be. So ready? Sama Moja.
39 new desks. I'm impressed by the quality of these desks and expect them to last a long time. But I truly believe the legacy that these kids will leave on the world will last a lot longer. At From Hearts to Hands, it is our hope that now that these students have desks to sit at comfortably, they will use the knowledge they gain here to help them stand for what is right and become the change makers their communities need. Like I said before, a desk is not just a desk. And while it's always super exciting to celebrate a job well done with the team, if you've learned anything about From Hearts to Hands, do you think I'm ready to tackle our next challenge? You bet. So stay tuned. Our next project in Monduli will be our biggest project yet. So as they say in Swahili, twende. That means let's go.
Yeah, so your hand is still up, so we can.
The desks, when you originally saw all the children in one room, that was a lot of children, over 50, 60, 70 children or so. So the desks take up room. So I guess you have another room that you can put the desk in to fit it. Well, you didn't fit all the desks in one room, did they?
Yeah, so there's multiple classrooms at this school. So yeah, there's definitely space. And yeah, it'll take them off the floor and then they'll be more maybe more compact, but yeah, there's various classrooms to spread the desks into.
And what type of wood did they use? I was curious.
That's a great question. I actually don't know the type of wood. I'd have to ask, but I can. But yeah, I just want to, thank you all for your help with this project. You can hopefully see through the videos what an impact it made and how long lasting it will be. And so, yeah, just very grateful for you all. And it's exciting that we were just talking about it at our last session and now it's been a reality. And so, I hope you feel that your money went to good use and it was multiplied for sure. And then, so the project that you heard me kind of highlight, well, first I'll share this photo because it's a great one, I think, that really just highlights what you all have done and the joy that has been brought to these kids. And yeah, their future is just so bright. And so I think that we have contributed to that, or you have for sure. And then to go on to the next project, which is our latest project, the one that I kind of highlighted to in that, or alluded to in the end of that video, is the Maasai Water Project. And so this is the one dealing with the Maasai tribe and their need for clean water. So in this area, this water bottle is literally a bottle that my staff went and took from that body of water you're seeing behind it. And that is what you would bring to your child when they tell you they're thirsty. And that is what the people are drinking every day. Essentially what happens in this area is that
they boil it, of course.
No.
What? You're kidding, Brianna?
No.
No.
Yes. And so to give you a little bit of background on this area, it's called Lendakinya Village. It's located near Arusha. So it's a part, Arusha is essentially, I guess what we would consider maybe a county, if you're thinking of like Miami-Dade County or something, to give you an idea. And so you have the city, which is closer to where I work when I'm there. And then you have this village, which is quite remote to get to. The roads are not very good. If it rains, this village is essentially locked off from the rest of the world. This village does not have a good water source. There is a 6-kilometer walk to a public water tap where water flows through about once a week. And so you'll see the women go there, they wait in line, and the water may stop before they get a chance to collect for their family. there's not enough to go around. And then the other water source, which is what you saw earlier, is where the community has gone out and dug a really large pit. They call it a dam. And when it rains, that fills with water. However, that dam is shared with cows. And it's also the local dogs are walking through, those sorts of things. The school that we were focusing on helping with this project has almost 800 students in attendance. And this project was really exciting because my goal is always to do everything very official. And so we were able to get the government on board. Their local Ministry of Water was really supportive and excited about this project. And so the problem, like I said, is not just at school. You can see here, this video shows the quality.
Now the kids are fetching water here. As you can see, them fetching and drinking at the same time. The clean is not, the water is not clean, but you can see them drinking directly from the.
So you can see, yeah, that water source, it's just very clearly not clean. And here's some more pictures to give you an idea. So it looks like hot chocolate, and that bucket that you see in the corner, you may think, oh, that's a waste bucket. That is actually the bucket in the classroom. When you're thirsty, you walk over there, you grab a cup, and you dip from that water source. And in the bottom picture there, you see the woman waiting in line for that water pipe to turn on. And these are the faces of the kids. I think it's important to, we hear these numbers like, millions of people without water in the world. I think it's important to bring it back to one, because these are the literal kids who are affected by this. I see your hand, Paul.
Yeah, that don't they drinking water like that, don't they get wormy or well?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to show a video that's going to give you some more of those facts. But yeah, definitely parasites. We're dealing with E. coli, bacteria, and we're also dealing with over-fluoridation of the water. So I actually had the water tested from that water bottle that you saw, and it was positive for E. coli, coliform, which is various kinds of vegetaceous bacteria, and it was also excessively high in iron and fluoride. And so just the natural elements, coming up from the earth is too much.
So it's just rainwater when it's rain.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they trying to do? They're trying to build a tank with
Well, I'll show you what we did do. So don't get ahead of us.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, I'll show you. So just to explain some of the why behind it, in Arusha, 86% of water is contaminated, 85% with fecal matter. And yeah, I don't want to say too much that the video already says, but our goal was to build a rainwater collection system for them that's cleaner. And so I will now play you another video. Let's see.
You're probably wondering how in the world did I end up here? You're probably wondering how in the world did I end up here? Well, it's a long story, but a good one. I've always wanted to do global service. In fact, for as long as I can remember, my goal has been to become a mission doctor. The more I looked and dove into public health and global service and what that looked like, the more I became interested in building wells, making sure that children had the resources they needed to succeed across the globe, making sure that people had food and clean water. Those are the things that make my heart come alive. But how did all this start? It goes all the way back to 2017, when I first stepped off a plane by myself into the dense mountains of Tanzania. I was hit with a wave of humid air, jolted out of my Western comfort zone, and right into my life's purpose. For 3 months, I volunteered, and that snapshot showed me what I hoped to become my life story and my life's work. Did you know that 23,900 deaths per year for children 5 and under in Tanzania are from waterborne diseases alone. I'm not okay with that number. Are you? We chose to do this project in Monduli, in a Maasai village about 2 hours outside of Arusha. There had been a study done in a nearby village called Babati Town, and it found that about 86% of the population reported not treating their water, and 86% of the water samples tested were contaminated, with 85% fecal matter and 70% salmonella. Not only that, they found high concentrations of fluoride in the drinking and cooking water, and that can cause severe problems, one of which is the breakdown of tooth enamel. So we had to find a solution for this, and the first thing I thought of was rainwater collection tanks. Well, actually, that wasn't the first thing. Building a well was the first idea. However, in this area, there's actually no underground water aquifer source. And so we built a rainwater collection tank, a huge one, in fact, that can hold 100,000 liters of clean rainwater. But not only that, we partnered with LifeStraw, and they have a product where each individual can have a straw that will last up to 1,000 gallons of water. That can last someone 5 years. And not only that, it filters 99.99% of bacteria, parasites, microplastics, dirt, sand, and cloudiness. So then there was just one more part of the problem to tackle. In doing research, we found that actually providing a clean water source doesn't always eliminate or reduce the number of waterborne illnesses or deaths in an area. Why would that be? Well, it's actually because if people are collecting clean water in contaminated containers, it negates the whole solution. So we provided reusable individual bottles that will be routinely sanitized for cleaner, safer water consumption. Good for the planet and the child. Because when I hear about numbers such as 23,000 children under the age of 5 dying per year just because of lack of clean water, I'm not okay with that. Are you?
Yeah, so that project was super exciting. I'll take your question.
So just looking at all your projects, I added up about close to 20 projects, 19 to 20. Yeah. The mine investors, the van, the hygiene. But looking at the projects, the one that will save the most lives is your water project. I mean, if you just set that up, boy, but you just touched so many different lives. But that water project is so critical and key. So you've raised the funds for that too. I know that started around the same time the Go-Go Desk project started, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so that one was, I'm trying to remember when our last meeting was, but basically this was completed in March. So all the funds did get raised for this project. However, there is a phase 2 to this project, and that is getting each individual family unit their own rainwater collection tank. So to give you an idea of scale, this one here was about 26,000 gallons worth of water. And just to talk a little bit more about it, again, this was a project that I started from being abroad. And when I had arrived, the tank was complete and they had already had a season of rain and the tank was already halfway full. And since that time, they told me that the tank is actually overflowing. So it's actually full of like 27,000 gallons of water, which is really special. And I think, I was hopeful that the water would be clean, but that moment of actually turning the tap for myself and seeing that the water was like crystal clear, and then I had it retested by the governmental agencies and there was 0 E. coli, 0 coliform, fluoride within safe limits. That was like, a really, really special moment. And of course, these kids who attend the school, they represent family units in this village. And so it's at least probably 2,000 people in the community. And so the goal now is to purchase individual rainwater collection tanks for these families. They are made out of like polyethylene. And so they're considered safe for this use across the world. And to get one tank for a family costs about $275 to $300. So we currently have 20 that we've purchased for family units there. And our goal is to, of course, get more. So that's one way that this project can still be contributed towards for sure.
So you got a large rainwater collection tank.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're trying to get family individual water, rainwater collection tanks. And then you have the Life Straw.
Yeah, so the Life Straw is like an exceptional product. I was really lucky to be able to work with that company. They gave us a phenomenal discount on the straws to where we were able to raise enough to get 1,000 distributed throughout the community. The goal of those straws is that 800 are, of course, for the children. And the goal of that is that, unfortunately, what the rainwater collection tank holds, it should not last like a full calendar year. And so that way, in the time of year where the tank may not be full, they can still actually use their previous water source. But by drinking it through the straws, it should be completely okay for them.
So the straw, they would drink the muddy water and it would clean it and filter it, and wow.
Literally. It's an exceptional product. It's been distributed, I think, to over like 500,000 people around the world. Here in America, it's actually marketed for the hiking community. So Americans here use it when they're hiking like the Appalachian Trail or things like that, to be able to drink from any like river source or things like that. And another thing that I love about the product is that the microfiber like filament filter that's inside of it, it will actually eventually clog completely when it's not usable anymore. And so I don't even have to check back in to make sure that people are using a filter that's not working anymore, because it will actually not be usable by the people. So that really helps protect against them using a filter that's not functioning, but is still letting them intake water. In fact, no, it like completely clogs and they're just not able to use it anymore, which hopefully is a good safeguard.
And what was the cost for the collection, the big collection tank? How much did you end up raising for that one? I'm just curious.
The large tank, I believe that was probably close to like, I think like $18,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
18 to
goodness.
20. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness me.
And then to get the filtration straws, with the deal that they gave me, there's two kinds of straws. So one is the standard straw that you saw in the video. Another type of the straw, it actually hooks onto any type of water bottle. So say that they can get their hands on a Coke bottle or something like that. They can fill the Coke bottle with the dirty water, put this straw on, and then flip it to where they can squeeze the bottle and essentially feed like a young child or something like that. So that one is a really cool adaptation. So we had 200 of that newer kind that I described, and then 800 of the other kind. And the cost of those straws with the special discount ranges from between $3 and $5 per straw.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So yeah, it's really quite cheap to make such a big difference.
Question, what is the cost of doing one family unit, and how many gallons is it?
Yeah, so one family unit is about $300 US dollars, and it's 5,000 liters. So if we convert that, we can do liters to gallons.
It's probably about a little less than half, right?
Yeah, so about 1,320 liters. So that can last them quite a long time. And so I will say, if that is something that you're interested in, particularly the family unit ones, I'll be going in October, at the end of October, back to Tanzania. I'll be distributing the 20 ones that we already have. And so at that time, if money comes in before then, I can add to that number and distribute to more families. And so, yeah, that's one of our goals for sure.
Wonderful. I just had a comment. The lives you saved are, just tremendous again, just by this one project. Many people don't know my younger sister passed because of infection from this type of bacteria, those types of bacteria. And she died because it got into her blood system and she became septic. So these are very dangerous bacteria. And so what we can do to help these people is going to be, one of the best things we could do, or best use of our money that you can think of.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful.
Brianna, we're gonna close soon, but a
Mhm.
quick question. What is the responsibility of the government to allow these people to be drinking that dang water, and it makes them sick, and it's not good for the country, it's not good for the people, it's not a good reflection on the government. They just don't have the funds, or their funds are not being used properly, or what? These people
Yeah.
are dying.
I think lack of resources is probably an issue. Yeah, I can't speak for how things are being allocated, but I think also some of these populations are quite remote too. So maybe it's challenging to know where to focus, but there's definitely need out there. And there are other villages as well that have kind of heard about what we've done and who would love, like, a large collection tank of their own. And that's something that we would love to do if funds allow. And then I know I've mentioned so many projects. Our final one that we're working on right now, because there's always a new one, we're working on building a children's library in this very village. And so if I have time for one more 1-minute video, I'd love to show you a little
No,
bit.
that's fine.
Go ahead.
Okay.
For many areas of Tanzania, the idea of a library is a luxury. In this village, where even finding fresh water is a challenge, you definitely won't find storybooks at home. But these children love to learn and come to school so excited every day. But there are no storybooks with which they can get lost in their imagination and enter another world. There are no tutoring books to help them master a difficult subject. In this setting, with minimal access to technology, books are a great way to expand their horizons. Some of the children do not go to school, instead following the traditional Maasai way of life, tending to livestock. But what if we had a place for them to go at the end of their day where they could learn? From Hearts to Hands' upcoming project is to construct a children's library in this very village. The goal is to stock it with as many books as possible, and that's where the Florida Adventure Club can come in. While we hope to do book drives to get English books, it's vital that these kids are able to read storybooks in their own language about their own culture. And there are many Swahili books available for purchase. Also, we plan to get Christian books with stories about Jesus so they can learn more about him too. What a beautiful witnessing opportunity. Every child deserves the chance to get lost in a good book. And you can help provide them this opportunity.
So yeah, so that's our current project, and I'm really excited that the Florida Adventure Club as a whole across the whole state of Florida has adopted the project of purchasing books as their project for the year for all adventure clubs across the state of Florida, which is awesome. So hopefully the books will be provided that way. But in terms of constructing a physical structure, this is actually the biggest project we've ever undergone. It will be the most expensive. And so this is our current challenge where I will really need and appreciate all of your prayers for this. It's a big undertaking, but I think that it would just be phenomenal for these kids to get to learn. Our goal is that each of the rooms in the library will be a different theme of nature. So an ocean room, mountain room, jungle room, those sorts of things. And it's very likely that some of these children may never ever see the ocean or may not even know what the ocean is. And so even in that small way of broadening their horizons, I'm really excited about it. Additionally, the community has mentioned like that some of the older members of the community are saying, will we be able to learn to read if we have a library? And so there's a chance of having like adult literacy programs held at this library to allow other members of the community the chance of getting the skill to read. So I think the potential with this project could just be huge. And so that is, you're all up to date now. So thank you for letting me share for so long.
Thank you, Brianna. I really appreciate that, bringing us up to date. I'm sure everybody's impressed with all the projects. The biggest problem we have is where do we go? Which one do we work on first? I think we should, I don't know if we should finish the desk because the water project seems to be more impactful to me. It has to be done. But the desks need to be also done also. So
yeah,
we'll maybe do a big thrust for the water project, but some of us will continue to contribute small amounts towards the desk, and eventually the desk will be paid off.
So Doc, we need to complete the desk. We need to complete the desk.
Okay.
Definitely, we don't need to complete the desk,
Yeah.
but definitely that water project is something like Brianna mentioned. I mean, it's really impactful. So
yeah,
maybe that could be our niche too.
Yeah,
niche.
I
But
like that.
whatever she has going,
work on.
we'll open it up for everybody. But
Yeah.
that water project, and we have to finish the go-go because that was our responsibility. We committed to that.
Yeah. All right.
And I'll put and I'll let you know, because since the desk project is on our like website for things to donate to, in the past month or so, we have had a couple more additional donations. So I'll tally that up and let you know what is the actual extent left.
Good.
Because you know other people are contributing now as well. And then I will put in the chat the donation link just so everyone has it. And yeah, I really appreciate the support, and it's just been really exciting, and I'm glad you're on board, and there's just, you know, so much we can do. And I know there's so many projects, but yeah, if you wanted to focus on the water project, that would be awesome. And it's a super tangible project where you see the results instantly. The rainwater collection tanks for the families, since they are a smaller volume, they don't even really require like filters or things like that. And so it's able to be used fast enough to where it's safe for them to just like for it to remain in that container for a while.
Brianna, are you in Florida?
I'm in California.
Or in California? Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
Whenever you're back in Florida, let us know, please.
Okay, I will let you know.
We'll try to get it to come to our church and expose it to the church, where hopefully, I think, because when I was going to West Africa, I made a presentation to my church in Massachusetts, and they dug about 2 wells for villages in Massachusetts. So if we can have you representing to the church, that can be quite impactful.
Yeah, and I can also send the video links to Len so that he has them. And if, you know, your church is willing to even play that for a mission spotlight or something like that, that could be a good way to get some exposure, just because I only get 4 weeks of vacation a year, and 2 of those I spend in Tanzania, and then the rest other places. So I'm not always able to come home to Florida. So that might be a good way too, virtually as well.
Okay, good. We can do it virtually now.
Yeah, send all those videos to Lynn, because I have other people I want to send it to, so we can try to get more donors for you.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments? Anyone, any questions before we wrap up? She's been talking.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
No, it's not even a question. It's a statement. Brianna, this is Raymond. See if I can put on my video. You probably can't even see me. So I'm in an obscure. I'm in a where's this? No, this is a hospital room, so you can't see me very well.
We can see you, Ray. Ray, we saw you. Don't worry.
I'd just like to tell you how grateful we all are of you
Thank you.
and how much we appreciate what you're doing, and also how blessed we are to see you, a young person, making the extraordinary effort to do as Jesus did. And so, from a personal point of view, I want to thank you. And I know on behalf of the men who are on the call, we will continue to give as much as we can to your projects and other projects too. But, you know, just to see this work continue and, you know, be known unto you. If you have done it to the least of these, you have done it unto him. So he is definitely blessing you, and he will continue to bless you. And I'm sure he's going to bless us too, but more so, I just wanted to express this in this format so that, you know, what's on my heart is expressed even in a miniature format. Love you, dear. Love you. And I met your parents. Well, I did meet them before, but I met them again. What was it, March, Len?
Yeah, at the funeral.
Yeah,
the funeral. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were up at his aunt's funeral in March.
Okay.
And so I was able to, you know, kind of have a rub shoulder, so to speak, with the fruits. Well, no, the
trees.
the trees. You see, I'm all emotional, so my words aren't coming out.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you got to meet them. They're awesome.
Yeah. It's so one of the things I want to request from you is, you said you only get 4 weeks a year. Whenever you come, well, Marcel kind of, you know, trumped my show, but whenever you get the chance to come south, don't just come to Orlando and stop, or Palm Bay and stop, but come further south.
Okay.
And then we'll figure something out. Len will be the orchestrator of it, but I'm just spearheading what, you know, our thoughts are, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, it's a deal.
God bless, you know, and even if it's a few days out of the week, we'll figure something out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
God bless you there.
Thank you.
Dr. McCullough, you can close with prayer, but I just wanted to mention this to Brianna. It looks like the progression of your projects. I know one of the future projects will probably be a hospital or a clinic. And I know, you know, after you finish, and so I guess I'm going to try to recruit Dr. McCullough with optometry and myself with medicine. And I've never visited Africa, but this would be the reason why I would want to visit Africa, is to help you. And so we can recruit some of the other guys to come and visit. But we just love, you're just like a missionary on steroids. And you give hope to the young people. We were just talking about lack of young people in the church, but you just exemplify. You're making me tearful too, like Ray. So thank you for your inspiration and all that you do. And all we can do is we want to support you. This is my little girl, and hopefully she can be inspired by you too.
I'll be there with engineering support. I'll be there with I'll be there with engineering support too. I guarantee you that, you know, I'll make some lights work there for sure.
He's an electrician. He can do anything.
Amazing. Yeah. That's needed for sure.
Yeah,
a team
I'm
to
sure.
do something. Get a team of us.
I'm sure there's a lot I can do electrically and technically, you know,
I'll keep in mind of that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of solar energy things you can use and connect up.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah.
There's so many ideas I could, you know, pass on and all that. So
I'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah.
All
Just
right.
run it through then, and we'll talk.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Any more last comments before we close with prayer? Again, thank you, Brianna. You know, phenomenal job again. Like you said, I'm extremely proud of her. She was here at UM and used to spend a lot of time at our house. And I knew you were going to do great things, but you just exceeded way above what I expected. So I'm extremely proud of you. The funeral we were at was actually her grandfather's brother's wife died, and that the wife is my aunt. So that's how we related through marriage. So her grandfather's brother was married to my aunt. Okay, we share cousins. We share cousins. All right, shall we bow our heads? Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the projects that you were able to get started and completed with through Brianna, your servant. We're asking right now that we all may join into those projects even more so than we were before. Commit ourselves to helping out, because it doesn't make sense for us to sit there and make a lot of money and leave it behind after we pass when other people are suffering. So bless her, bless all the projects, help this group of men, continue to bless all of us, all the families represented, and may we be committed to service. Amen.
Amen.
Just a quick comment. I notice whenever we donate, she gets the receipt and she sends it straight to you through email or whatever. So I remember that. So
Yeah.
you can get your tax
Tax deductible
benefits there.
Yeah,
Yes.
everything's tax deductible.
Yes, and I will say, there's another link that I can send to Brother McCullough as well, that if you're planning to give like a substantial amount, it doesn't take out any processing fees. So I know sometimes when people donate, they offset the processing fee for us, which is great because then we get more of the money. But there is another donation website that is for nonprofits that takes away the processing fee completely, so that everything you give goes completely to the project. And so I will send that his way as well. The only difference, I will say, the caveat is that we don't get access to those funds for a month after it's donated. So if you're interested in the water project and getting tanks on the ground very soon, I would say donate through the link that you've already had. Additionally, you could do like direct bank transfer, those sorts of things. I'll also send the banking information to Brother McCullough as well, so that if that's a way that works better for you, that's an option.
And again, on the website, you can designate what you're sending the donation for, I think, too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as you get there, I have it pulled up right here just so we have a visual. So this would be the donation page. You scroll down and there's all the projects. So library construction, water project, go desk project, and you have friends talking there and all that. So should be very clear, I hope.
And one thing for the men, this is we've recorded this on YouTube, and you can send this to anybody and have them look at the videos and the project. So that would be a good way to get everybody on board and send it to whoever you think might be interested in donating for her and participating in her projects.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Well,
all right then, guys. And thanks again, Brianna. Dr. Green, thank you so much. And God bless everyone.
Thank you.
2 people in 1.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.